So without any more further yapping, let's get to the unboxing. Now, in the name of sustainability, iPhone has been getting more and more, we'll call it streamlined with their unboxing experience. So there's not going to be a whole lot in this box. I'm expecting that from the jump. So on the box itself, it's kind of actually raised here, so you can kind of feel an outline of how thin the phone is, which is actually kind of cool. And then you get to see this beautiful protruding camera bump, which I'm sure they're not going to call protruding camera bump. There's definitely an Apple name for that. So when you open up the phone, wow. Every single time you open an Apple product, it's just wow. You get some actually small little icons of what the buttons on the outside are actually doing. Outside of that, the phone is facing face down, so you pull this little tab, and we're off to the races. Whoa, hey, geez, all right, that's wild. I'm gonna set that down, and then we're gonna get back to that in just a second. So like I mentioned, in the box, literally, there's not much to it. There's pretty much this, which is a USB-C to USB cable, threaded. These are really good quality cables. They're not color matched to the device themselves. Maybe one day Apple will do that, but that day is not today. I have a million of these laying around the house, so I'll just put that to the side, add it to the pile. And then outside of that, you get this tab. I am not sure what this is, but that's pretty much it. So it's just basically this thing saying you no longer need a physical SIM card, and that decision is what allowed Apple to get a little bit more juice, a little bit more space out of the battery. All right, now first impressions with this blue, it looks super faint. I'm not even sure that's gonna show up on camera because it's barely blue. It's super washed out and pastel. Not sure if I love that, but maybe in time I'll get used to it. But right off the jump, this thing feels incredibly light and thin and slim. We'll get more into that a bit in a second. I just wanna peel this off so I can see what's going on underneath the hood. Love that. Every single time, that's an amazing experience. So let's go ahead and boot this up because I'm actually going to transfer all of my files in my iPhone 15 Pro Max over to this bad boy so I can get some more hands-on with it. But while it's booting up and I do that transfer, we can talk about some of the other things that don't need setup for. Like first things first, this thing is super thin. It's not gonna come across on camera. It's really hard to explain just how thin this thing is. At the thinnest parts, it's 5.6 millimeters and only 165 grams. And I know a lot of people are saying, okay, they're definitely ignoring the camera bump when it comes to the measurements, but honestly, I don't care. When you're using a phone, you're typically holding it at this portion, which is the 5.6 millimeters. So I think it's fair that they are broadcasting that spec over what it is with a camera bump. And while this is booting up, we can go ahead and mention that on the front glass, you're getting this ceramic shield 2, which is supposed to be 3 times more scratch resistant than the previous years of iPhones, which is nice because I always have my phones in my pocket and I always get scratches with like keys and whatnot. So hopefully I don't get as many scratches this year. So as I'm playing with it already, I'm kind of getting like iPhone Touch vibes. I'm not sure if you're old enough or we're old enough to remember that, but there was a time where iPods came out and they were kind of this size, not as tall, but that's kind of what I think about when I first hold this device. Now it's kind of getting actually a little bit warm as it boots up right underneath this camera bump, which is concerning after only maybe 4 minutes of the device being on. Let me put some respect on Apple. Apple doesn't call this a camera bump. I gotta stop with that. They call it the plateau. And this plateau is probably one of the most interesting and exciting parts about this phone. That's what's housing like all of the phone itself, like the phone components, and then the rest of this is just the battery. So it's going to get probably a little bit more hot up here than it is down here, but that's kind of how they made this phone possible in the first place, especially since they dropped the eSIM. And the edges of the phone feel super smooth. This is like one of the most ergonomic phones that I've used from Apple in the last 5-10 years. It feels really good in the hand. This year, notably, they're not switching to the aluminum for the the iPhone Air. So back when the iPhone 15s came out, they made a huge deal that iPhones are now gonna be using titanium. They talked about titanium so much. And this year they announced that the 17 Pro and the 17 Pro Max are gonna be switching to aluminum for a lot of different reasons. But this phone, the 17 Air, did not get that update, so we're still rocking the titanium with this guy here. And I'm not mad at it. I think it looks really great, both to the eye, to look at and in the hand. Holy smokes, it's getting hot. So while this is booting up, I want to talk about the most surprising thing about this phone, and it's not the price, it's not the thinness, it's that chip that's inside. So this is rocking the A19 Pro chip, which is pretty impressive. Apple claims that this is the most bestest, fastest, awesomest chip that has ever existed. But this is the same chip that you're gonna find in the 17 Pro Max and the 17 Pro. And they kind of talk themselves into a circle because in the keynote when they were talking about the 17 Pros and the 17 Pro Maxes, they said, wow, this has the A19 Pro chip inside of it. This is some of the most impressive piece of technology that we ever need. We're gonna need a vapor cooling chamber to keep this powerful chip cool and running great. And I was like, oh, that's great for the 17 Pros, but this is running the same chipset. And it doesn't have the vapor chamber and it doesn't have the new aluminum unibody outer thing. So is this gonna get super hot? So as soon as I heard the keynote, I went ahead and ordered a, what do you call it? A temperature gun 3000. That way I can keep a track on the temperatures so far. So from the jump, let's see. My iPhone 15 Pro Max, which I haven't been using this whole time currently, is at about 79.3 degrees across the back. The Air, which I just booted up, which takes a lot of power to boot up for the first time, is currently at, 91.4, and up here, 96. So a lot hotter than a phone that's just sitting idly by, but I want to make sure that I'm keeping track on the temperatures because I have a sneaking suspicion that this phone that's really consolidated to right here in the plateau is gonna get hot. So in a long-term review where I check this out for a little bit longer than just 10 seconds, I'm definitely gonna make sure I'm keeping note about that. But if you have any other questions outside of the heat about this phone, the iPhone 17 Pro Max, which I'll do in the next video, feel free to comment them because this isn't my channel. This is a community space. We're just talking here. We're hanging out, talking phones. And if I can answer questions for you and add that in my next video, happy to do so. So now I'm going through the setup just a little bit more, and I honestly forgot about this camera control button. I didn't have it on my 15 Pro Max, so it's gonna be pretty cool to see if I can actually use this. I doubt I will use it because there's a lot of issues I think I have with this because when you use a camera control button like that, you're inevitably gonna shake the phone just a little bit and it's gonna mess up your shot. So I probably won't use it, but I'll definitely test it out just in case you're curious about it. All right, we are in the phone and it has the new Liquid Glass OS already on it, which actually looks really good on this phone. And the display on this bad boy is a beaut. It's 6.5 inches OLED, 120 hertz ProMotion. And this year it's getting to up to 3000 nits at peak brightness, which is phenomenal. The phone I've used for the last few years, the 15 Pro Max, has had a peak brightness of 2000 nits. So the fact that this has a 3000 nits peak brightness is honestly gonna be amazing. And right now I can already tell, the screen looks great. But a display this juicy and beautiful pulls a lot of juice to keep it running like this. And again, that's probably the biggest concern with these thin phones is how long these phones will last. Apple doesn't really publish their milliamp hours as far as their batteries are concerned, but we can kind of guesstimate what they are. Apple's advertising 27 hours of video playback or quote unquote all day usage, which I will be testing. I'm not too sure this is gonna get really all day usage, but if it does, I'll be very impressed, and I'll be the first one to let you know and the first one to give Apple their flowers for making that happen out of such a thin device. Come on now. So I'm expecting this thing to do about 7 to 8 hours of on-screen time. And with a 20-watt charger, you're gonna be able to get about 50% of juice in just 30 minutes, which is pretty great as far as charging times are concerned. Now, an interesting thing about this phone is it also launched with like a companion little add-on, like this battery pack right here. It's specifically designed for the iPhone Air, and it's meant to give it just a little bit of extra juice. So I got one. Let's go ahead and unbox it. So I doubt this thing came with any charge at all, but I am assuming it just kind of, magnetizes to the back, and that's how it looks. With this battery pack on, just from like my hands, it feels a lot heavier than my iPhone 15 Pro Max. So I'm not sure if this defeats the purpose of an Air phone, but I like the design of it. It looks really clean and seamless like it belongs on this phone. And I think Apple only wants these to belong on the iPhone Airs because they specifically designed it not to work with any other device. So this is a 15 Pro Max. Doesn't really work. Slides right off. And then on the 17 Pro Maxes, I've seen other videos, it's gonna slide off just like that as well. So they only want to have these battery packs used with the iPhone Airs. How Apple is that? One of the last things I wanted to talk about with this phone is the camera systems that this thing comes with in this beautiful camera plateau. So on the rear side, you're gonna get the 48 megapixel camera, which is great for a phone this thin. But on the front hand side, that's what I'm most excited about. You're gonna get an 18 megapixel front camera, and it does center stage, which is so strange. So typically iPhone cameras or phone cameras are like a vertical rectangle, so that's why people cock their hand to the right when they want a larger view and more friends are getting in there. But with this, let's see if I can do it. So you press this button right here, and then you automatically get this landscape style photo, which is just insane. Look at that. Imagine vlogging on this. This is kind of like the ideal focal length you'd like if you're vlogging, but you don't even have to hold your phone sideways. I think that's one of the coolest features about this phone. All the iPhone 17s have it in their lineup. And it's because of that, again, square sensor. So that's really cool. Can't wait to check that out a lot more. And I'm also feeling this new update to the iPhone UI. I feel like it's super easy to navigate and really simplifies the whole camera experience. And as far as pricing goes, these are not budget phones at all. The base model is 256 gigs, and you're gonna be able to grab that for $999. 512 gigs for $11.99 and 1 terabyte for $13.99. So pretty much just the same amount as a 17 or a 17 Pro, but I guess you're getting a different form factor if you want this. So throughout my test in the next couple of weeks, I want to answer the question, who is this phone for? Because it's quite confusing, because it does a lot, but not as well as its brother and sister, the 17 and 17 Pro Max. It has a great form factor, but different materials than the 17 and 17 Pro Max that they're so proud of. So again, would you sacrifice some of the fancy ultra wide and telephoto cameras in a bit of battery life for this nice, sleek form factor? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you're gonna pick this phone up and why or why not. All right, that's all I have for this one. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. See ya.